This video is sponsored by Shebop. Shebop is a woman-owned sex toy boutique for everybody, specializing in body-safe products and education. Visit sheboptheshop.com to shop online or take classes.
It's time to get to the Q&A portion of the evening, and we have some questions that have been sent in by our viewers. And if anybody watching right now has a second question that you'd like to ask future guests, check the video description for the number to dial in and leave a voicemail. You can see it right now on your screen. Nothing is off the table. We're open to any and all sex and sexuality questions. So let us know what you want to know and we'll respond. Speaking of that, let's get to our first question of the evening. Here we go.
How do I turn the porn I watch into actuality, or if I know if I should, and if I shouldn't, should I cut back on the type I watch? And if I should, how can I convince my wife to do some of those things? I don't think it's going to go down that way. Thanks for your help.
Let's start off this one with Tatiana. How would you respond to this caller?
First, I would change your word convince to communicate. You don't have to convince your wife. Your wife wants just as much sexual pleasure as you do. Now, does that mean when you're dealing with a new fantasy, it's time to get to this point of understanding if this is something you want to bring into your marriage? Whether is it fantasy, or do we actually want to create this into our sexual livelihood? The best way to communicate with your wife is showing her content or explaining it to her in either fantasy form and storytelling. You know, you don't actually have to take the action, or even just role playing it out without any penetrative sex, without any in a sense of just foreplay. I think of as whether that's storytelling, you recording an audio of like, here's the story, and she gets to listen to it and you get to watch her reaction. At the end of the day, I don't think you should jump right into like the sex part, the whole mission of your fantasy, but just to see, dip your toes in, play with the idea with her and see what you guys can do together. And if there's a middle ground, and maybe she sees what you're talking about and she's all on board for it, you never know. But just introducing it in micro doses can at least show her what she likes. And it also give you, if she says no and she's not into it, it at least gives you that opportunity to say, I explored it with you. Try it.
Yeah. I would also say to this person, there is no should or shouldn't. Should I watch porn, or should I stop if my wife isn't into the idea of it? Porn is fantasy, and there's nothing wrong with having fantasy in your sex life as well as the reality of your sex life. And sometimes those things coincide and sometimes they don't. So I just wouldn't put the should in there or shouldn't.
Yeah.
Rain, I believe that you teach about this exact thing in some of your classes. Is that right?
I have been asked different variations of this exact same question for over a decade. As a porn star and an advice columnist, that you actually, this voicemail question that was left, it's a number of different parts that I want to break down, starting from the top. Porn is not realistic. Porn is a fantasy. Porn stars don't go home and bang like porn stars. You are watching sexual stunt people perform a stunt for your viewing entertainment. They do not go home and fuck like that. Watching porn and thinking it has any correspondence to what real life is like watching Die Hard and being like, is that an average day? I take a bullet and raise my bicep, rip off a t-shirt, wrap it around, and I'll do a fist fight. It's not realistic. It's a fantasy. Never, ever, ever look at porn and think it has any bearing on real life, because it doesn't. I love porn. I watch a lot of porn. I have done years of porn. It can be satisfying. It can be rewarding. It can be fun. It can be thrilling. Do not base your real life on that fantasy. Use it as a template or a mood board or inspiration. But don't think that anybody fucks like that. because they don't. You're watching it something that's edited. The awkward bits are taken out. The negotiation has already happened. It's super flattering lighting. Porn stars go home to fuck. And they're like, it doesn't look like it looked on set because you're making a fantasy. Now, your wife, when you ask, should I stop watching this porn? Here's the super important question. Is the porn affecting your life detrimentally? Are you late to work? Is it affecting your relationship with your wife? Is it affecting you financially? Or what you're feeling is guilt and shame that you're getting off to something. You can get off to something and have it be healthy. When watching porn starts to be something that you do to the exclusion of taking care of yourself, maintaining your relationships, holding down a job, keeping your house tidy, that's when you need to address your consumption of porn.